I live mid I lived mid city for many, many years, right off of Wilshire and basically Crenshaw area. Do you know that?
Okay. Yes. Well, I'm not so much in that side of town. I'm actually in Sherman Oaks.
Oh, you're in the beautiful part of the valley. Sherman Oaks, Encino, Valley Village. I love that area.
Actually,
I was just
literally
over there.
in Encino right now.
Oh, Encino, Rancho Los Encinos, Old Guard. That is old Spanish. That was all Spanish land grant area originally. I love that area. I have a few friends over there off Louise. I love Los Angeles. It's a love-hate relationship because I don't really love all the overdevelopment we're seeing in our city, but oh my gosh, it's such a beautiful city.
It is. I'm Mexican from Mexico City, but out
Oh,
there,
you want that? You want to talk architecture? I mean, I love reminding people that Mexico City for 500 years was the epicenter of North American culture, arts, and finance. I mean, when New York and Philadelphia and Boston were like barely scraping out food system, Mexico City was the height of what North America knew as culture and art. Um,
really.
and oh yeah, yeah, from the 1500s all the way through, honestly, the middle part of the 19th century, Mexico City was still the hub. It was the cultural hub, the art hub, the finance hub. Everything really shifted at the latter part of the 19th century. But before that was Mexico City. Absolutely.
Wow, I'm already proud because also, the you guys have Central Park. We have an equivalent of Central Park where you have a castle. I also brag about that.
Oh yeah. I mean, the Baroque architecture in Mexico is unbelievable all over the country. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm very proud of our Southwest roots and our Spanish Mexican lineage. Absolutely.
Oh,
I
nice. Well, you just taught me a little bit about my home.
love that.
We can get started to talk about your upcoming season 6. What new surprises are you bringing us?
Well, I think probably that's a great question. I think the biggest surprises are in season 6 is a slight shift from a little bit of focus under HGTV and DIY, where it's still all about restoration. It's still about saving everything and the family stories. I think the big shift under Magnolia is they really wanted to see us focus a little bit more on design, talking a little bit more about design intent and design execution instead of so heavy construction. The construction still had to happen, but we've always before they've kind of focused because of DIY a little more on the construction side and didn't always tell the story of design, why a design style is meant to reflect the architectural style, what are the elements of design, and how do you make that happen. I think we did more of that this year and trying to bridge into more of the Magnolia kind of genre and overall feel that Chip and Joanne and the team at Magnolia are working to achieve.
So, what design do you prefer to work with? And is there
Oh,
such thing as a cheaper, more economical design?
oh, golly, yeah. Design doesn't have to cost a fortune. I mean, some of the best designers, worked, themselves up through lower class assets. I mean, I come from more of a farming ranching family. I mean, but I gotta tell you what, my grandma would say she had great design. She didn't have a lot of expensive things, but she had great taste. Taste and design is not always equivalent to just money. It's how you put things together. It's how you see color and how you see contrast and materials and finishes. I can tell you, I've spent a lot of time in some of the family farmhouses, and I got to tell you what, didn't have expensive furnishings, but they were high quality and they were beautifully designed. And I mean, one of the best design practices I always tell people, and one of the first things I tell people about restoration, the most cost-effective way to restore and make any change in any space is to clean it. Start with cleaning the spaces around, get rid of the clutter, clean, reveal some of the finishes, and that alone will make a huge difference in a space.
Well, you just gave me one of the 3 steps as to how to begin.
I'm
So, what
sorry.
would be your 2 and 3 advice?
Start with cleaning, and then number two is if you're tackling any renovation or especially a restoration project, You want to focus on the original intent. What did the original architect decide they wanted this structure to look like? And what was the purpose it was meant to serve? Because there's the whole methodology that form follows function. First, a building is meant to house people. It's built for work. It's built for storing things. There's a purpose for every space. And then the purpose of the space is really tied to the time frame in which the building was built. So quite often when people get challenged with older properties from 100 years ago and they go, it doesn't meet the modern mindset. But that's because it was meeting the modern mindset at the time when it was built. It doesn't mean it can't be relevant today, but you have to understand what it was designed for and then kind of bridge the generations and find a way to respect the history, yet let it serve a purpose for today. And it really starts with that historical understanding and then setting some goals about, how are you going to integrate technology, lifestyle, and everything without sacrificing the style.
So one of the things that you always say that it's not only about the look, the style, but how it feels.
Oh, you watched a little bit of this.
I have. I actually watched some of your earlier seasons, and
Yeah.
I'll be honest, they did send me the new material, but I want to be surprised because I want to talk to you based on what I had seen.
Yes, I love that. So, which any standouts, anything that you kind of remember? Any house or
Yeah, so there was like one, I remember there was one episode where it was like a Victorian, which had no look of a Victorian look. And
Yep.
you totally had to restore everything, the Fayette, like it was like this whole other home. It
Oh
was
yeah.
unbelievable.
Thank you. And that's the fun, right? Is trying to look at the details that define that architectural style and using the materials and details to create that style. Because as your question was to me, how does it feel? Good architecture is meant to drive a response. So it's meant to craft feeling when you walk in the front door. I mean, I always tell people, and a lot of times you've probably seen me, I'll take a homeowner out and I'll say, come on, let's walk out to the street. And I want to see how you approach your house. And let's talk about what is your eye seeing? How does this make you feel when you see this house? Is it a grand experience? Is it inviting and comfortable and feels like your grandpa? What do you want it to say when people walk up to your house? And what do you want the house to say about you and your family when they walk in the door? Because our home should reflect how we want to be perceived in our communities and not necessarily how marketing medias or other people tell you you should be this and it should be glitz and glamour and this is what, because that's not what all of us want in our homes. Many of us want our homes to have a place of comfort. It's a place where you go to rest. It's a place you go to entertain. It's a place that you typically welcome your family and friends, and you want it to be reflective of how you want people to feel in your home and how people perceive you. So I think those are the feelings that I always try to make the structure be reflective of. It's really reflective of the homeowner.
How did this all begin? How did your love for restoration and bringing back the original facade come to you?
It started when I was a little kid. I remember I can pinpoint it to a place and time. I was probably 7, 8 years old, and my family farm in Oklahoma is where I spent a lot of time in my youth. And there was a dairy down the road from my grandparents' farm, and when I was really little, it was spectacular. With silos and barns and outbuildings, and everything was just meticulous, and it captured your attention like great architecture or a grand old tree. It will something that says, wow, there's someone paid attention here and there's something very special about it. As I got older, I kind of watched through the generations the farm fall into decay. And, over the 20, 30 years, things just started, not being taken care of. And then one barn, fell down and they got rid of it. Now the silos are gone and there's not much left of it. And at an early stage, it really triggered something in me about preserving and taking care of things. And also, I think coming from a family of modest means, and especially if you come from a farming or ranching family, you understand the value of things and what it costs to buy something. So you don't quickly just replace things, you take care of things and you fix things. And I would say that is an old school mentality, not just in America, but this is a world mentality that families work hard to hold on to something and usually pass that on to generations, and you take care of things. And we're taking care of things so that a future generation can reap the benefit of your investment and all your sacrifice. And I think that's kind of what I really fell in love with. And that's been kind of my mindset since I was a little kid. I like to fix and take care of things.
And you bring so much joy in fixing and taking care of things for some of these people's home. So, what's one of those touching stories we'll be seeing? Because, I mean, the end is the whole thing is great, but the end is just so heartwarming.
Thank you, Nancy. And for me too. I mean, I I try not to let it show too often with the camera guys. Sometimes like get on, I hear them like get on Brett. I'm like, oh no, am I starting to get a little weepy because it's it's really hard because I always tell people it's a privilege that family and anybody is inviting me into their home. It's a very personal thing that they're allowing me to their inner sanctum, their most sacred space, and they're saying, hey, we need your help to make our home something special, and we'd like you to do it. So they're entrusting me with their house, and I really do listen to the homeowners. And I think at the very end, I hear all the time, they're like, you really listen to us. And I go, well, that's my job. My job is I'm not restoring or building a house for me. I'm supposed to be interpreting what you're telling me and trying to make it visualize so that you can live the dream of the house you would always hope to have. And I think that's the fun. And you're going to see that in the upcoming season. There's one family in particular, Tom and Karen. I mean, just phenomenal couple, saved their whole lives, bought their dream home that was a bit of a mess when they bought it. But then, and they planned to restore it. It took 30 years. They raised their kids, they ran their business, they took care of their parents. Life happens. And I think that's one of the things that we all get caught up in. We all have the best expectations that tomorrow I'm going back to the gym. Tomorrow I'm going to be better about spending money and I'm going to fix my house and I'm going to do this. Life is what happens in the meantime. And sometimes years, if not decades, go by. And for Tom and Karen, 30 years had gone by. And Karen, it was very emotional because she's an amazing woman. And she struggled for a long time to make sure that not only they hold on to the house, but it was a good house to raise their kids and the kids in the community. It became kind of the epicenter for a lot of the community there for them. And to see the house finally get restored, she told me, she goes, I never really thought that we would ever be able to achieve it. She goes, I just thought that it was a dream that was never going to get realized. So that's something you're going to see. And it's so hard for anyone that's along that journey not to feel that kind of personal connection because we all have those stories. And I think that's one thing about the show that's heartwarming. We can all relate to a family member, a sibling, a neighbor, and that journey and those struggles. And so you see it. So I get a little tied up in it too, and it's hard not to.
Yeah, as
Is
a
that too
viewer
long? I'm
too.
sorry.
No, as a viewer
Good.
too, you can't help it but just feel for them.
Yep,
That
100%.
excitement.
Yeah,
Oh, you just told me a little about Mexico City. So, if
yeah.
you had a chance to do like international restoration, what country would you want to do this at?
Oh, oh, I've never been asked that question. Oh, if I had to pick one,
Or
oh
two?
man. Well, I mean, Mexico would be high on my list just because culturally we're so aligned. It feels like, very familiar. Um, I oh, I mean, I can't lie and tell you that those those dreams of restoring like a grand old farm or a castle in Normandy in France. That would be pretty amazing. I mean, I've traveled a lot over the years and there's beautiful architecture all over the world and I love the regionality and the building materials. I think that's one fun thing about America is that we've borrowed our architecture from everywhere in the world, from obviously all over Europe and all over Asia and even parts of Africa. And I mean, we are the melting pot architecturally. And I think that's amazing. And I always remind people when we're talking about architecture, I said, most of the details that you see in a home that you think is an architectural detail had a functional purpose originally, and it's learning the history about half timbering and how that half timbering on those English Tudors was holding the mud and the thatch together to provide walls back in the day. And the half timbering became an architectural style, but at one point it actually served a purpose. And French Normandy homes that have the sweep of the roof line that kicks out, and what was meant to shed the snow and the rain further away from the foundation. And now it's become a style that we recognize. I know that's probably a long-winded answer, and I apologize. I mean, architecture around the world, there's fascinating places. I mean, India. I mean, oh my gosh, you want to talk about incredible architecture? I mean, I would love to tell you that. I mean, that I'm going to go restore something in the Middle East or Persia because I mean, there's just so much history. Masonry. I mean, I'm a mason at heart. I love masonry, and there's tons of it in Mexico. I mean, old world craftsmanship. I worry sometimes a lot of the trades that have been passed down for generations around the world, we're losing those skill sets today in this modern mindset that everything should be fast and quick. Not only do we lose the artistry, but we're losing the skills and the craftsmanship that created all these spaces that are so unique and special. So yeah, I'd love to go. You could put me anywhere in the world, and I'd probably find something I'd love to restore.
Well, hey, that's an idea, going to another country.
I would love that, honestly.
We're
I mean,
putting it
we
in
could
the
stay right here in
universe.
North America between Canada and Mexico alone. I mean, I could spend a lifetime and not even scratch the surface at the architecture and the diversity and regionality that you would see all over this great continent.
I can see that. Well, fingers crossed, we put it out in the universe. Maybe it happens for another season.
I hope so. Thank you so much, Nancy. I really appreciate it.
You're
They,
welcome. I really appreciate talking to you. I was excited for this. And now, after speaking to you, I can dive in to taking advantage of getting material for season 6.
Okay, I love it. Thank you so much. I'll be curious, shoot me a note and tell me what you think about some of them. There's some super special ones, and there's going to be a few heart wrenchers here. I promise you that.
I love it. I love it. Sounds good.
Thanks, Nancy. Have
You're
a great day.
welcome. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.